Yeah, that works. Where's- I'm going to call the commission meeting to order, and Commissioner Baker will have our invocation and our pledge of allegiance.
Thank you. Let us pray, please. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. And as always, we thank you for your blessings upon our lives. God, we ask your direction tonight. We ask, Father, that you be with us and be with the people in our community. Help us to make wise decisions. Help us to all have understanding. We give you the glory, the praise, and the honor. In Christ's name, amen. Let's stand for the pledge, please. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. You may be seated.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
I am here.
Commissioner Hanson,
Present.
Commissioner White, Vice Mayor Johnson,
Here.
Mayor Lamb.
Here. You had in your packet the commission meeting minutes from October the 3rd. Are there any questions regarding them or any corrections?
Move to approve.
A second.
We have a motion and a second comment. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yay.
Commissioner Hanson, Vice Mayor Johnson,
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. This is a time for comments from our citizens. It's actually for not the unfinished business. We will have a public hearing on that later. This would be for anything other than the comments that you may have for the rezoning. So if you have other city business that you would like to share with us, this is the time for you to share that with us. And if you just approach the microphone, give us your name and your address. Seeing none, then we will go on with our agenda. Our next item is unfinished business, and it is our second reading and a public hearing on two ordinances, 1112 and 1113. So I'm going to close the business meeting and go to an open hearing, the public hearing. Would you read the captions, please?
Ordinance number 1112, an ordinance to amend the official zoning map to rezone certain properties from AG to R1L, more particularly described as Hamilton County Tax Map 132, parcel 053, and Hamilton County Tax Map 132, parcel 054. Said properties being located within the corporate limits of Collegedale, Tennessee.
Thank you. I'm going to ask, I know that many of you will have statements that you may want to make. I would like to ask you if you have something that you want to say has already been said, that you try not to repeat, because we're using 15 minutes from beginning to closure for this public hearing. So if you, excuse me, be quiet, please. Let me finish talking. 15 minutes for the public hearing. And then we will give opportunity for the individual that, Mr. Price, that is here to represent the company, to give a response to your questions or your statements. Please, let's have good decorum. We don't have all night to spend on this. We have been hearing and we've received many, many messages that I'm sure some of the individuals are here that has spoken to the Planning Commission, or we have received emails or phone calls from. So I think we're pretty much aware of most of how you feel. And so I think 15 minutes giving people opportunity to make their statements. And again, try not to repeat what the person in front of you has just said.
Mayor, it may be more efficient if you let Mr. Price go first and present the project, and then that may answer some questions that some folks have.
That's fine. He and I talked prior,
I'm
and he would
sorry.
like to respond
All right.
to them. But if he wishes to go first, that's fine.
I would prefer to the end, if I might, but it might be helpful just to read the staff recommendation and then also the conditions that we have set forth.
Yes, that would be the next item to be done. Okay, yes. Is, Wayne, if you would, the city manager, would you read the conditions and so forth, please?
Yes, so the staff recommendation was to approve with 13 conditions on the zoning and 12 conditions on the PUD plan. The conditions are all the same except for the final condition on the rezoning, but I'll read them all here. Condition A, gross density shall not exceed 1.26 dwelling units per acre or 512 dwelling units. West side condition, only single-family detached homes shall be allowed to be constructed for this development. West side condition, all single-family homes are to be constructed on the west side of the tributary of Little Wolf Teaver Creek and shall be located no closer than 75 feet to the existing right-of-way of Edgemond Road. West side condition, a minimum of 20% of the land area to be set aside for community space. East side condition, only single-family detached homes shall be allowed to be constructed for this development. Along the right-of-way of Edgemond Road for the development, there shall be a single row of evergreen and deciduous 2-inch caliper trees planted at approximately 25 feet on center, except as required to construct primary, secondary, and utility entrances and exits. A minimum of 30% of the land area to be set aside for community space east of Edgemond Road. Ingress, egress shall be through Edgemond Road. Edgemond Road shall be improved to accommodate the development as approved by the city engineer. No building permits or certificates of occupancy shall be issued prior to the city engineer's approval of the proposed low-pressure sewer system and/or the city of Collegedale approves the connection of such a system to its sewer system. Curb, gutter, catch basins, street lights, and sidewalk to be installed per subdivision construction plans approved by the city engineer. Street lighting may be achieved by mailbox-oriented lighting, which, if utilized, would be maintained by the HOA. Existing trees shall be preserved to the greatest extent possible. And the Collegedale Board of Commissioners approval of ordinance 1113, a plan unit development overlay, and the accompanying site plan also affecting the subject property referenced herein. So those are the conditions.
Okay, and they are the same on both ordinances, correct?
The first 12 are the same. The approval of the zoning is subject to the approval of the PUD.
Yes, okay. The microphone is open, and if you will give us your name and your address.
My name is James Palizzi. I live at 5609 Jonquil Lane in Homewood. I've been on your website. I've looked through it. My concern is not that the land be developed. I get that there should be development. I think this is excessive. I don't see any allowances in there specifically for infrastructure improvement. Right now, the Collegedale Police Force is understaffed. How are you going to get more cops to police that land? We have a volunteer fire department that, God bless them, but when we have someone who's having a heart attack and you've got traffic backed up on Edgemond Road, now you've taken them the quick response and you've made it a death wish. The water and sewer, right now when you flush your toilet, it goes 30 miles to Moccasin Bend. What are you going to do to take care of another 400 or 500 homes, with each having at least one, probably 3 toilets? All right. That area floods twice a year. We're to a point where they close the road. Where are you going to put that flood water? Little Wolf Digger Creek is not going to handle it without flooding on the Lee Highway, and I'm sure TDOT will love that. The other thing is, I went back and I pulled up some campaign promises that were made by our esteemed mayor back when she was elected. And I just like to remind you of what you told us back then. It says, we have to look at what all the citizens of our town would like in developing our policies and regulations much more than we did when the city was first organized, 9/21/21. Collegedale seeks growth, builds on unique history under Mayor Lamb, also on 9/21. We want Collegedale to have a distinct look and not be cluttered. We want to preserve the rural atmosphere. We don't want someone to come in and clear off White Oak Mountain to put in houses. Your own words, ma'am. We don't want to just be a bedroom community to Chattanooga. We want to be unique. We're also trying to catch up with the various roads and safety projects around town. We're constantly working with individuals who have interest in our area. So there's a petition. There's approximately 30% of the 11,000 people in Collegedale that don't want this. How are you representing our wishes and the desires of your constituents who put you in that office? I don't see it. Again, I go back to the infrastructure. I have not seen anything in your website on how you're going to improve your infrastructure to accommodate all this additional growth. It was brought up at the last meeting that there's legal issues regarding lawsuits if we don't allow these people to sell their land. I don't have a problem. Sell your land to another farmer. It's already zoned agricultural. You want to change the face of our town and make it what you said you don't want to make it, a bedroom community of Chattanooga. And I think that's just plain wrong. Okay? Now, you'll all vote your conscience. God bless you. And in the final end, when you stand before the gates of St. Peter, you can answer for what you have or have not done. Thank you.
Thank you. Can we avoid any clapping, hollering, cheering? This is not this is a government, we want to have some decorum, and I will not hesitate to have the room cleared if it continues.
My name is David Golden. I live at 8940 Gray Mountain Drive. The proposed development would put too many houses in too little space in the wrong place. Before approving this proposal, our elected officials owe it to the current residents of Collegedale to thoughtfully evaluate all of the following, which are still unanswered. Is all of the mountain slope and floodplain land readily developable? If not, then Empire is abusing the PUD concept by putting over 500 homes on a 64-acre footprint. Does adding 15% to the city's population in one spot and over 1,000 vehicles at the corner of Edgemond Road that already floods and backs up make sense? The Planning Commission did not follow through with its commitment to get the safety opinion of the fire marshal. Has that been done? The traffic studies both showed that Edgemond Road will become increasingly congested without the proposed development, and the proposed development, which will double the problem all by itself. So how is this going to help Edgemond Road? This one small piece of land will hold more homes than all of the surrounding neighborhoods combined. As the city has determined, Misty Valley's density is 1.24 units per acre and Cloverian Hills density is 0.85 units per acre. This is 1/8 of what's proposed, which is 8 units per acre on the 64-acre footprint. The 2030 plan describes conservation or cluster subdivisions to maintain natural areas. This groups homes that would otherwise spread over the entire building tract. It does not mention gaining density credit for not building in unusable floodplain or steep mountain grades. In summary, we continue to count on our elected officials to represent us to achieve development that makes sense for all of Collegedale citizens. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Zach Gray, 5202 Silver Lane. I'd like to make 2 points. One, I think the land use has been calculated in aggregate, while the zoning regulations are clearly in terms of lot size. 2, I would like to highlight the unintended consequences of dismissing the concerns of a large number of citizens. First, there was a faulty assumption in the reading of the Collegedale zoning ordinance, which looked at the land use in aggregate. I'll refer to land use in section 4, paragraph 5, section 4.5, paragraph 4. Land area. No parcel of land shall be reduced in size to provide separate lots or building sites of less than 1 acre in area, except in instances where a public water supply is not available, in which case a 2-acre minimum lot area should be required. I was here when the city staff said that that was an aggregate. That's clearly not the case. It's based on lot size. So if there are 427 acres in the parcel, 408 to be rezoned, that would mean 408 homes. The argument was made, we're just adding another 85. According to the developer's calculations, 20% would be left green space. So at most, it's 300, most generously, it's 300 homes. So we've been sold an extra 85 homes. It's actually an extra 200 homes because of the misreading of that ordinance. I think this fundamentally changes the land use and the layout. Second, I believe that this commission is made up of well-meaning individuals with a high degree of personal integrity and have the best interest of the city in mind. However, in this case, I have seen the concerns of the citizens dismissed or the buck passed, where it's saying, oh, it's not our problem, or the school board will figure that out. I'd like to see an active role in the process. The commission has not made a compelling argument for how this development will help the city, traffic, schooling, or the very soul of the community. Unfortunately, the only recourse is the coming backlash in the electoral process, which will change out this commission and may leave our city in less capable hands than yours. The argument was made by the commission that property rights were sacred and outside the scope of this commission. The citizens understand that and have asked for the land to remain zoned agricultural, simple as that, which is under the authority of this commission. Please consider that your vote may have been influenced by an error or sleight of hand in the reading of the regulations. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can I pass these out to you?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Good afternoon, council. I'm Austin Miller. I'm a representative of that consists of 3,530 signatures in direct opposition of both rezoning and planned unit development of a magnificent piece of land.
Did you give us your name and did you give us your address?
I apologize. 285 Matt Circle, 37323, Cleveland, Tennessee. The respondents of this petition reflect 30.9% of the population of Collegedale. 1,696 of the respondents were within the local area. I like to be very particular with my statistics. So when I say local area, we used a 45-minute rule. If you can drive 45 minutes out there, we called it a local area. I feel like that reflects fairly well. This is not a community in a tizzy because they're afraid of change. This is a well-informed and educated community looking to put a stop to the pillaging of this land. If you as a council cannot see the overwhelming consensus of your community, you are intentionally disregarding the wishes of your constituents. I asked both the council and the developer tonight what the need is for this development because clearly the community doesn't see one. These are important voices that need to be heard. I will add on that packet that you have received there in the zip code breakdown, there are an additional 32 pages on the first section, and on the second section with all the names, there is an additional 2,425 more names. I don't have enough money to print that much paper, so
Thank you.
you're welcome.
But one quick thing.
Yes.
Before you leave, still no addresses, right?
I cannot get direct addresses
So
through
Windstone
change.org.
is 37363. I'm not trying to be disrespectful.
Correct.
You're using them in the number, correct?
I have included 37363 because it includes Ooltewah and a lot of other, actually, I
And
have,
Dolly Pond is 37363.
it includes Ooltewah, Chattanooga, Collegedale, Rockledge Estates, Snow Hill.
So it's just not.
So I can't give you a direct address. The medium
I
through
just
which
wanna
I
make
collected.
sure we
Yeah.
same-
And I think it brings to light also another idea that the remaining 50-ish% of the petition that is not made up by local people still, I think, holds weight. These houses are being created far outside of the scope of affordability for most people in Collegedale. If you look at the mean income, it's about $75,000 a year. These houses have been said by the developer that they're for people outside the community to come in. And so if you don't think you got to pick your battles, are the homes for people outside the community, then the remaining 50% means a whole lot more. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Eve Knight, 5017 A Bestmore Road, so right next to the airport. I agree with most of what's been said, so I'm sort of flipping through here. I just want to be clear that I've been listening, and it seems like you guys haven't been. You have hundreds of people who have voiced concerns, and there has been zero discussion on some things that you can change, like lowering the numbers of homes. That is way too many houses in way too small a space, regardless of the legal deceit of trying to aggregate it over the whole thing. And I would like to know the reasons that this commission has for completely ignoring the concerns. And I appreciate that Ms. Baker went and at least checked some things out, but I want to know your reasons for thinking that this is okay, when so many of us have told you this isn't going to work. Thank you.
Thank you. You can bend that down so you can hear better.
Thank you. You're bringing your podium, Mother.
Yeah, Mr.
Yes.
Mr. Sines is going to bring it
Hallelujah.
She's got
over,
it.
Thank you.
okay? Yeah. We were just waiting for you to get up. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
You're very welcome.
Yes, this is good. I'm good. Okay.
Now you look official.
All right. My name is Phyllis Smart, and my husband is Charles Smart, and we live on 5850 Edgemond Road. And my phone number is 423-503-2219. And this is my daughter, Melissa Owens, and she's my moral support, and she lives in Ringgold. So,
She sounds like a good daughter.
If I'm not mistaken, you should teach English at Tyner, did you not?
I taught English at Tyler. Did I
You're my
teach you?
English teacher, yes. And my children.
What was your
Let-
name?
Let's,
But I'm sorry.
let's don't take up their
I'm
15
I'm sorry.
minutes.
1 minute remaining.
I'm counting on you. I'm sorry. Here, let's go. Anyway, we live on 5850 Edgemond Road. We will be surrounded by the development. Around 1975, my husband Charles and I bought 3 acres on Edgemond Road. 45 years ago, we cut down trees and built a home. This community has been a wonderful place to raise our 2 girls, who are now adults with families of their own. I taught school for nearly 30 years at Old Y High School and other places. Living in Collegedale community has been a dream come true. We just ask that you consider the impact that these 512 houses will have on our property value and on the property value of every one of our neighbors. From what we understand, there seems to be a density of 8 houses per acre, entirely too much for this wetland area. Part of the commissioner's duties is to protect the interests of the people who live here and have invested a big part of our lives in this community. I have this ordinance 113 where it talks about that the legislative body, you are authorized to rezone where the conditions are designed to ameliorate. Now, ameliorate is means to lessen. So I'm going to read that again. The body is authorized to rezone where the conditions are designed to lessen injuries created by the rezoning to surrounding property interest.
That's time.
Okay.
For
Thank
such a
you.
time as this is why you were elected.
Okay, how many people haven't spoken yet? 3?
I'm sorry.
No,
You're-
that's okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate your comments. I'm going to let the 3 come up and do their talk and no one else. And then Mr. Price has an opportunity to respond.
Hi, my name is Carrie DeMemo. I live at 5616 Landrum Drive, just off of Tucker Road, off of Edgemond. I've lived in the community for a very long time. I've left and come back, but I'm going to cut to the chase here because so many people have already made many of the points that I've made. And I would like just to say that I don't think as a whole we're against the development. We know that communities evolve. I think we beg you to reconsider the density of what is proposed when it comes to rezoning. If rezoning means that we're going to have this density of housing in that spot, it's my understanding that as it stands, it can already be developed 1 house per acre, if that's my understanding. But more specifically, I want to speak to the traffic issue. The traffic study, Benjamin Disraeli, the former prime minister, said there are 3 kinds of lies: lies, damned lies, and statistics. The traffic study conducted by Kimberly Horn and Associates falls into the last category. I can assure you, as someone who travels down Edgemond Road a minimum of at least 6 times a day, the traffic study conducted by Kimberly Horn and Associates is a perfect example of such statistics. I will jump, this is not my own writing, but I'm going to jump to something that another person has written that was in a paper that I believe was already handed out to you prior to this meeting. The study was conducted on Tuesday, July 12, 2022 from 7 to 9 a.m. and 4 to 6 p.m. So it does not include the school traffic, which occurs the majority of the year. On TDOT's website, the last hourly data counts for Edgemond Road northbound and southbound were completed on January 7, 2019. The 2019 TDOT northbound AM peak hourly count was 223, but the traffic study count is only 189. The southbound peak hourly count, according to TDOT in 2019, was 350, but the traffic study count was only 229. That's going southbound. The traffic study count is significantly less than the 2019 TDOT traffic counts that include school traffic. Also, the TDOT counts are 3 years old and would be even higher today. Therefore, we feel that the traffic study is grossly understated and does not represent the traffic that exists today for the majority of the year on Edgemond Road and Lee Highway. School is in session now, and I can tell you, as someone who delivers this child to Ooltewah High School, she has to be there at 7:15 in the morning. A whole lot of traffic occurs outside of those rush hour times that were studied in the traffic study that the data was collected. There's a lot of traffic before 7 a.m. and the bulk of the school traffic in the afternoon occurs between 2:15 and say 4 o'clock, not 4 to 6. Again, the traffic study recommended widening Edgemond Road and the bridge. The TDOT two-way traffic count on February 9, 2021, the daily traffic count for Edgemond Road was 5,261. And according to this traffic study, this development is projected to add 5,046 daily trips, which means almost doubling the daily trips on Edgemond Road, and that is a significant increase. I beg you on behalf of our community, please look at this carefully and try to find as much impartial, correct information you can, not just about the traffic study, but the floodplain and everything. Please consider it carefully and see what alternative is there to this specific development. I don't think we object to the development of the land. It's the nature of what is being proposed here by the developers. If there's an alternative, I beg you to please consider it. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Hi, my name is Lydia Mitchell. I live at 1501 Boss Springs Road in McDonald, Tennessee, and I just have one question and one comment. So this piece of property is about 600 acres, and I think that that's plenty of space for there to be perhaps protected species of plant, animal, even fish with Little Wolf Teeter Creek going straight through this property. So I was just wanting to know if any land surveys have been conducted whatsoever to see if there's any federally protected or endangered species that are located on this property. Because if it hasn't been, I would encourage that to happen if there's still time. But if not, I think that that is a grave mistake. Other than that, I just have one comment I'd like to make about from a Cree proverb, and it says, "Only when the last tree has been cut down, the last river poisoned, and the last fish caught will we realize we cannot eat money." Thank you.
Thank you.
Kevin Kibble, 5643 Edgemond Road, 423-933-5494. And thank you for the time to share our concerns. This is pretty overwhelming. And I look at you and you look overwhelmed. It's a lot of information. And I want to thank those of you who have gone beyond the call of duty to actually respond to the concerns of the citizens. It is a representational form of government, as already has been stated. But one of the reasons that we repeat things, the only reason that people repeat things, is because they do not feel heard. I am here with the same notes that I've used in my previous comments, and I do not think I have been heard. There are two rules that are regulations that are already on the books that you have the power to change. And I do not know that they have been addressed in the commission. That is the International Fire Code, Section D107. Has there been any change to Section D107 of the International Fire Code, which has been adopted by the city of Collegedale?
No.
I didn't think so. Thank you for that answer. It's very clarifying. Section D106.3 talks about, once again, the issue of fire apparatus being able to access the top of both sides. And it asks for, it's a regulation, but I'm going to just soften it a little and say it's an invitation for two separate entry points to both areas that are proposed before us. There is one, but not another. And the one that is placed there is too close based on the International Fire Code, which is on the regulations of the city of Collegedale. I have a partner business in the city of Collegedale, and they would get regular visits from representatives of this body because the color red in their signage was not what was proposed. Their red was too red. It was maroon that had been proposed for their signage. I really think it's important that the city commissioners set an example for following regulations if they require the city residents and businesses to comply with regulations. It has already been said that you are good people, moral people, decent people. Why would we set an example, commonly called a slippery slope, of not following regulations you have the power to change, but do not change them and take action as the Planning Commission has already done virtually unanimously to recommend the rezoning of this property in violation of regulations that are not trifles. They are fire apparatus access roads that are illegal based on what I say. right up there, there is one and not two. The reason we repeat ourselves is because the last time that Mr. Price spoke in response to the 15 minutes of comments by the citizens of the city of Collegedale is the fact that he doesn't respond to each of the concerns that are mentioned. He cherry picks or selects the ones that would be most favorable to his propositions. I would like to know as the last speaker on this issue, as far as I can tell, what will be done about a law or regulation, that is already on your books, Section D107, another, Section D106. As we look at the map right now, they appear to be in violation. And I know my eyes aren't what they used to be, and the light is quite bright, but I do not see two entry points other than the roundabout right next to the illegal floodwater collection ponds. Did you notice that they're right there? That is also a FEMA violation. The two ponds right next to the roundabout are in the floodplain. By FEMA standards, collection ponds for floodwater are not to be in the floodplain. This is a lot for you to consider. I just don't think you have time to address all these issues and approve this illegal rezoning. Some have suggested that perhaps it would be addressed in the permitting cycle. If that's the case, why have a public meeting? We have public meetings so that the citizens can speak about the issues. Permits are well done, but all the time, a citizen is not there to comment. We have collected our comments, some of us, I'm included, for the very first time, because this is our street. Edgemond Road is my street. I think my neighbors would understand if I said that I walk this street virtually every single day. Already, it is too difficult to cross the street safely with my wife. I think we need to carefully figure out who is responsible for addressing these concerns and then address them before you approve this rezoning. If you approve it, you will be breaking City of Collegedale recommendations. I really, really hope you'll vote no on this rezoning, but if you don't, please do not vote unanimously yes. That was a slap in the face at the Planning Commission. A slap in the face to the people who have to collect information, people who have worked hard to organize their thoughts, who risk being nervous and scared and saying the wrong thing in front of this august body. It is a slap in the face for the Planning Commission to recommend virtually, unanimously, to recommend to this body approval of this rezoning, knowing that at least two regulations would be broken by the City of Collegedale commissioners if they did it. Thank you for the time. If this sounds like repetition, it's because they were not addressed previously. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Price, your turn.
Thank you. Mike Price, MAP Engineer, 7380 Applegate Lane, Chattanooga, Tennessee. So let me start off with Mr. Kimball. I don't believe he's a registered engineer in the state of Tennessee, and I don't believe he understands the regulations as it relates to FEMA, because what he stated is entirely wrong. I have been working now for 35 years. I have done multiple plans and submittals to FEMA. I've never heard of his regulation that he just stated. So let me just state that he is incorrect in his assumption. That he stated that you cannot put stormwater detention ponds in floodplains. That is incorrect. You can. Now, individual communities can make a decision to regulate those out, but FEMA has not. Okay? Secondly, he mentioned as it relates to the International Fire Code, and he stated in sections D 106 and 107 that this plan does not meet the International Fire Code. He is incorrect again. If you really take the original International Fire Code that was adopted, it said that you can have no more than 30 homes before you have to have a second entrance. 30. Now, what has happened is communities, Chattanooga, Hamilton County, and I believe Collegedale as well, you adopted and or give your fire marshal the opportunity to decide what is the appropriate number when a second entrance is required. On our west side, we are at 178. We have a single entrance. Therefore, we meet the requirements of the International Fire Code. On the east side, there are 2 entrances. They're clearly shown on the plans. So we have 2 access points. We meet the requirements of the fire marshal, and we've sent emails of our plans to the fire marshal. So we've gone through this process. This is not approval of a plan that does not meet the requirements. So to state, as he did emphatically, that somehow this doesn't make it true. It just is stating what he believes. I, as an engineer, can state that we have gone through the process and understand the rules and came up with a plan that does meet the requirements. It's gone through staff review as well. So don't take that as being the gospel just because it was stated by someone here in a meeting. As a development overall, there's been a lot of discussion with regards to density. So let's just have a quick, brief discussion about density. When you look at most of the developments that go on in Ooltewah, East Brainerd, that are single-family homes, you're looking at densities overall that would be somewhere between 2.5 to 5 homes per acre. That is very common, and we do those all the time. We just submitted a rezoning application for one off of Ooltewah Georgetown Road, just on the other side of the interstate, as a matter of fact, that sits a little over 3. So it's not uncommon for us to have densities in that 3 to 5 range for single family homes. We're 1.25. That's just it's an unheard number as it relates to what you typically see for densities. And I think this fits in keeping with Collegedale with what you want to see. We've already stated that we're going to leave percentages, high percentages, 20 and 30% of these areas for open space, for community areas. You typically do not find these type of percentages in most developments that occur.
May I ask you a question about that?
Yes, ma'am.
If you're leaving the clear space for green and so forth, activities, does that make your density greater than what you have told us it would be?
No, because the density is based upon the overall acreage. It's not where you just simply take the footprint where the development occurs. It's the overall acreage. Because you take into account everything. Open space areas, areas that are steep, floodplains, all of that takes into account when you come up with the density. That's the way it's been done. It's the way it's always been done in Collegedale as well as in other areas. So that's no different than what has been done and approved by these bodies for other developments previously. We are making it. So green space would be common areas. So what we simply looked at is we figured that there was 20% that could be done on the west side and 30% of the total acreage on that west side and 30% on the east side. And we would take those areas and we would set those aside as being common open space, not owned by anyone except for the community.
You're saying 20 and 30% of the
Total acreage on each side of the road. So that's the percent of areas minimum. It could be more certainly, but that's the minimum that we have to meet.
Okay.
We're making improvements to Edgemond Road. There was a question about the traffic study. The traffic study, we did have them redo the numbers and redo the study to take into account the traffic as it relates to school traffic. And that was submitted, and it is on your community website, as I understand it. So we did take into account the school traffic in the morning. We have self-imposed these conditions as it relates to the walking trails and the green space and community areas. We took out the townhomes. That was one of the things that in one of the earliest meetings, people really did not want to see townhomes. We listened, we took the townhomes out. We went single family entirely on the entire development. We have a tank site. I know there was some discussion about infrastructure. So we are replacing the current pump station that is out there, working with staff as it relates to relocating that elsewhere on the property. We are providing a water tank storage point on the west side where that will then provide water service for probably increased pressures for everyone in the community, working with Eastside Utility on that. There was discussion as it relates to fire and water and sewer. So I think those issues have pretty well been addressed. As it relates to fire, I have heard that I believe the mayor of Hamilton County is going to look at trying to move us from a volunteer to a paid fire service eventually. And again, this subdivision will not come up overnight. This subdivision will be a year in the making as it relates to grading the roads and getting the infrastructure built. And then homes will come up after that. It will take some 6 months or so for those homes to be constructed. And then you'll have people start moving in. So you're 2 years off before this starts seeing people coming into the area. But the infrastructure's improvements that we will be looking at, those will be taken into account and will ameliorate, which is what you're supposed to look at when the development occurs.
My understanding is that this is coming in 3 phases over a period of 5 years.
The thought process is it should take some 5 years, could be a little bit longer, depending upon how the amount of absorption of people moving into the community would be, and home sales taking place. So 5 years to 6 years would probably be a very good guess. Yes, sir.
But the purchase, you're purchasing just for each phase, you're purchasing that. For
You're taking down the entire property, you're purchasing in phases? We will be purchasing in phases, yes, sir.
And does what happens in the first phase affect the purchase of the second or third phase?
Is it conditional on the sales? No. They'll continue to purchase going through based upon the contract sales condition.
So regardless of what happens in the first phase, you're going to continue on for the other 2 phases?
That is the plan, yes, sir. The Planning Commission did recommend for approval, as did the staff. So this is in keeping with what this body has looked to in the past for recommendations in terms of what they've seen. So again, it is in keeping with what has been reviewed, and certainly the conditions that have come up with, I think, reflect that. The thing that I would talk about, there was questions about streams and floodplains and endangered or threatened species. All of those things have been taken into consideration. We have provided buffers for the streams. We're not impacting the floodways. The development has the necessary number of stormwater detention ponds. We will address water quality. So from an environmental standpoint, all of those things are addressed. There's no threatened or endangered species on this land that I'm aware of. Fish and wildlife, certainly whenever you have a development such as this, it's easy enough to simply ask if there are any threatened or endangered species in the area that we need to take into consideration. And typically we get a response back within 2 weeks. If there's something there, just there, for sake of discussion, I'm wrong. There's something there. We'll take it into account. We'll work around it. There's, again, a process to go through to make certain that you've checked all the boxes and you're doing things in the right way.
Is there any knowledge about any kind of Indian or indigenous artifacts and so forth that's in that area because of their past history in the area?
Not that we're aware of, no, ma'am. In summation, let me say this. I believe that this plan attains the goals and the development standards that have been set forth by this community. This is not a overdeveloped piece of property based on this plan. Again, the density is far less than what other plans, and this isn't the first plan, as I stated previously, I believe to you. I have had multiple developers over the years want to do many different things with this property. Most of them had densities that were more in the 800 units and up. And that was what they saw it would take to make this a viable development from their standpoint. Empire is not coming at it from that direction at all. They've looked at it in terms of what they think is appropriate and what fits the land. And that's why this is the one that is being presented before you tonight, which I think is the right plan for this community. If there's any questions, I'll be happy to answer those.
Go back to the fire code.
Okay?
At the close of our first reading, vote, somebody came up and raised some concerns, did a nice packet of concerns, several people, and the International Fire Code was one of them. And of course, building in the floodplain and soil surveys. I was concerned, you brought up, he brought up the speaker, the last speaker brought up the violation of that he appeared to be, and that was in here. I read over this and looked at it. And I was trying to, I scanned their concerns here and sent them to the fire marshal and said, would you give me your reaction to this, what's appearing to be a violation? And I never heard back from the fire marshal. This is 2 weeks ago. He did send an email back about a week later saying that he had gone to a memorial service for his father and he was out of town, but he would get back to me before this meeting. I assumed it would be before this meeting, because that's what it was all about. And he did. That concerns me.
So I talked to the fire marshal right before this meeting, Larry, and I'm not going to speak for him because he is the fire marshal. It would be inappropriate, but he did have a death in the family, and so he was out in Washington State, I believe it was. So he apologized. He did not get back to you sooner. He's playing catch up. So I did want to let you know he shared that.
So what I can tell you is, again, when you look at the International Fire Code, and that book is this thick, okay? Both pages, front and back, as far as, each page is printed in through their way. At the end of the day, the fire marshal has carte blanche approval ability. If he says, I don't care what this regulation says, I'm going to approve this, he has that ability. Your fire marshal essentially is a demigod, if you will, as it relates to what can and cannot happen.
You're saying he did approve.
So what I'm saying is, yes, sir, is that when we contacted him, we submitted a plan and said, here is the regulations. Here's what we are proposing. This meets the fire department regulations. We even then went to and talked with another fire marshal in another district and said, hey, just verifying we're reading this correctly. Do you see any problems with these regulations in terms of this plan meeting this? And they said, yes. So now, fire marshals have different opinions, but my understanding is that the fire marshal for Collegedale has looked at the plan and will approve it once it's submitted.
He just did not, I indicated to the commissioner and wanted, probably got to vote on this and would like to know. I haven't gotten that kind of response.
So at the end of the day, let's just say for sake of discussion that the fire marshal has a different opinion of what I've just told you. Then we'll have to amend the plan accordingly. It's talking about an entrance. That doesn't affect density, doesn't affect really the layout that we have in through here, other than we may have to shift the location of a road. But the plan still stays the same. So it seems like to me, this is more of a discussion of finer points versus is the zoning appropriate and is this the right plan? Those are two different items. This is more into the weeds of what the particulars of the plan will be versus what the overall plan is proposed to be.
But at this point, the commission does have a say, whereas what you're talking about will be out of our hands.
It's going to be out of your hands either way because we'll have to meet the requirements of the fire marshal either way.
May I interject just something briefly, and I'm not going to elaborate. But I sat in many of the planning commissions and heard a lot of the comments that were made. I was here several times and I sat in the back. One particular evening, the fire marshal representative sat beside me. And listening to some of the concerns and things, I asked him personally, do you see anything objective with this over the plan? And he said, speaking on behalf of the fire marshal, they do not see anything that would interfere, that it was within what they approved of. You know, and I'm just going by what he said to me about that. He was asked if anyone had any questions, if anybody would speak to him, and at that time, he even stood up. And then they went on and he sat back down because they didn't address him when he was getting ready to. So for that reason, I mean, I understand where everybody's coming from, and that is a concern, because when we're talking about the mountain, being able to get fire trucks up there, and that was one of my concerns, and I spoke to him about that. And so based upon what he told me then, and looking at, and it was the same plan, he saw nothing wrong with it, looking from the fire standpoint. But if there was to be something, that they could address it.
You people got this packet that was handed out at the end of the,
Yes.
Meeting last time? Yes.
So the thing is, if the fire marshal finds an issue, the city can appeal it to the fire marshal as an exception and work through a process of appeals. So
My guess would be is that the way that this typically would unfold is the engineer and fire marshal will work together to come up with a solution. In the event that it doesn't, then you take it to the variance board that would oversee the fire marshal. So I don't even know if it would come back before this body. I'm not certain who the variance board is that would have that authority. But at the end of the day, again, it's a detail. It's an important detail, but I don't think that it impacts the overall zoning and with regards to what we're discussing as it relates to the plan. If a driveway moves, that what we're showing 60 feet one way or the other, does that mean that you would deny or approve based on that? I don't think so. That's just a detail.
do all of the lots meet the 50 by 110 dimensions? 50 feet by 110 feet. Somewhere in there I read that that's a minimum size lot. And do all of the lots?
You remember?
No, the PUD would overrule any minimum lot dimensions.
So the plan unit development gives us the ability to have smaller lots.
But this was in the PUD.
Are you talking about the zoning or the PUD? There's two different.
Well, in the zoning, the Collegedale zoning, it does get down to PUDs.
Right.
Where it's a separate subject
Yes.
and separate concerns. And I'm pretty sure that says in this PUD, the minimum lot size is 50 by 110.
That would be the standard zoning at 60 by 110. That's the standard R1 zoning, and it's 60 by 110, but not the PUD. The Barnsley Park subdivision, for example, has 28 foot.
It's much bigger than that, the requirements, it seems.
Correct. For example, the Barnsley Park subdivision gets down to 28-foot wide lots.
The what?
Barnsley Park, that was approved 2 years ago, gets down to 28-foot wide lots.
it's off Woodwall Ringo down here. But, I mean, people are buying those homes. I mean, people want smaller lots and not to deal with the yard. It's their right.
Yeah.
And I get you, I get it. You may not like it, but everybody's a little different. And I'm just saying what they do.
I have a question that was brought up about our zoning, 4.5, paragraph 4, that we were not meeting the regulation in that.
You'll have to give me a little better reference on that section.
Where's Zach?
We need to be careful not to conflate the basic zoning and the PUD requirements because they are completely different.
That was my question. Is it part of the R1L or is that our basic zoning? And that's what my question was. Zach, Can you take that over and show it to Wayne, please?
I don't think we need citizens' comments anymore, unfortunately, because it's closed.
No, I don't want his comments. I want him to
Yeah.
show
can show it
Wayne
to
what
the
he was
city
talking
manager.
about, so Wayne can answer my question. I'm not asking Zach to come up and talk
No.
again.
Yeah.
This is basic zoning. This is not
Okay,
related to the PUD
that's not
whatsoever.
part of the R1L that we're
It's part of the
working on.
R1L. It's not part of the PUD overlay.
Okay,
The PUD overlay is basically an exceptions to this,
the R1L.
correct?
Okay. That answers my question.
Okay.
Any more questions for Mr. Price?
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to close the public hearing and we'll go to our own discussion here. We'll start our commission meeting again. Okay, I need your thoughts, your questions, answers.
I have one question that was not related here concerning the police department. They were concerned about it not having enough coverage or to be able to cover for police protection.
Mhm.
And I know that our rate, correct me if I'm wrong, we have some officers in the room tonight. They're usually within a 5-minute response. What would be your input as to whether we would have manpower to cover this particular development with our own police department? I know that we do hire when we need people to meet the needs of the community. Can one of you respond to that?
While the lieutenant's walking up, I will say that all of our departments have long-term growth strategies in place to maintain staffing as the city grows. Public Works, for instance, PD, et cetera, but I'll defer to Lieutenant Hayworth on this particular project.
Sum up the question again. I believe I missed it.
Yes, there was a question about, they were concerned that with the development, there wouldn't be enough police to take care of the needs of the people in that particular development. If you got a call, the response time and that sort of thing. And I would like for you to, they're talking about the shortage of manpower.
I mean, for as long as I've been here, which is close to a decade, we pride ourselves on, answer time. It would just depend on how many residents this brings in, and obviously you and the city manager may be saying we need to add some manpower, but
Okay. And
as of right now, we're fully staffed and we have an
We are
excellent answer time.
we're fully staffed now, and I know that in the past with the police chief and so forth, that they always bring forward this commission when they need to hire more manpower because of the needs of the community. So I was just wondering about that. I wanted the people to understand, we're going to take care of the community and what the needs.
No, absolutely.
Because we have an excellent police force.
Yes.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, one of the issues or one of the requirements of when we annexed is that we had to guarantee that there would be certain services that we would guarantee would be in that particular area. Trash pickup, public works, police department, and so forth. So that was all part of that requirement when we annexed the land along Lee Highway.
Correct. The services plan was provided when annexation was requested.
Right.
Thank you.
I want to say thank you for the messages that I've received regarding the Chastain property. I have quite a large file in my computer with that. Most of the messages indicated they don't want change. However, we live in a changing world, and change cannot be totally avoided, even though we would like that at times. When I was elected to the City Commission, there were no standards for property development within our city limits. Property was being clear-cut. Metal buildings were being put up for businesses, and it was concerned that our city was becoming a mixed mesh looking place in which to live. A group of citizens and commissioners got together one evening to discuss how our city could grow and become something of which we would be proud. We reviewed what other cities were doing, and we visited other Tennessee cities. And out of this discussion came the business and residential standards, which is the basis of our current standards. They have been reviewed and they have been changed over the time to fit what was more current. And we continually look at how those can be improved. In 2010 and 2011, the city began annexing property within the Collegedale growth area. In 2012, we annexed the property along Lee Highway. Mr. Chastain and his son came to a commission meeting and asked that we leave his property as agriculture rather than business as we had planned, because everything along Lee Highway there was zoned business with the exception of this Chastain property. They promised if they were ever to sell and develop the property, they would come back to the commission and request a change from agriculture. They kept their promise, and that's where we are and why we're here today. Another issue that has been raised in some of the messages is the cost to the city for this housing development. With the land zoned agriculture, there is a large reduction in the amount of property tax that the county and the city receives. Excuse me, no, please. With the change to R1L/PUD, the city's portion of property tax that the city will receive covers the basic services that you have been questioning whether the city could provide. It is my belief that this housing addition to our city will not only provide quality housing for the residents, but it'll be something that we can be proud. The Chastain family have made a decision that not all of the family may be happy with, but it is their decision to whom they sell. There have been several different builders who've wanted this property and would have developed the area in such a way that it would have caused much more unhappiness than you and I have heard since the plans on which we're considering tonight was brought to light. So I'm hoping that in our discussion, it may not go the way you want it, it may not go the way I want it, but I'm just asking for your understanding. We have tried, we have listened to you. We don't always get our way. And the gentleman who referred to comments that I've made over the years that I've been on the commission, I stand by every one of them.
You gonna say anything, Larry?
No.
Okay. Well, I'm gonna say a few things. So today, if we let this AG, a developer could come in and build 408 homes regardless, and the city could not touch or have any restrictions on it. They would not have to provide a lot of the infrastructures that Empire is going to do by this rezoning from agriculture to what it is today.
Jim, what's the process they'd have to go through to do that? You're saying that.
Today, agriculture allows them to build 408 homes on that property without the city changing anything. There would be not any restrictions.
No codes that they had to meet or?
They would file a standard plat that would be approved, and then construction plans across it. They would clear cut the entirety of the property and grade it to work, and everyone would issue permits.
So that's the whole point right there. They could clear cut the mountain
The environmental agencies would let them just clear cut and.
as long as it meets TDEC and all the standards of that. Yes, you're correct. They can. If you look at some of the subdivisions going out,
There would have to be stormwater
Correct.
measures and things like that, Commissioner Hanson. But as far as them being able to do whatever they could do legally under agriculture, they can do it.
Yep. So I just want to make that point
So
because,
this could be developed into 400 homes if we turn this down.
Correct.
but they would not be required to put in the infrastructure that we're making them put in.
Well, I understand, yeah.
Yeah. So just want to make sure everybody's aware of it. Last time people said it's not true, but it is. And I just want to say that we have listened, and I will tell you, Empire, I've met with Empire, I've talked to Empire. I wrote to one of their references in the city of Alpharetta, and basically said their city demands quality, and Empire builds a great product. They are well thought of by the city and the city planners. The neighborhoods are beautiful. They sell out quick. I asked specifically if they would have Empire do it again, and Dan said, absolutely, they are creative and deliver a great product. And then Kathy, the other person I talked to in Alpharetta, I asked her the same questions, but I asked her, I said, again, would you do business with Empire? And she said, they are phenomenal at what they do, and we have 2 additional projects with Empire today. And so I think that says a lot about their character. Now, they are a big company, but they do not allow other contractors to come in and build houses. It's their project, and you can correct me if I'm wrong on that, but I think that I think we're going to get a good product out of it. Now, people have talked about concerns, and I think we've touched on some of those. I'm not going to talk about the gas or the water. I think the floodway, and Wayne, if you and I have talked, I think that they are going to be elevated. The property in the floodway would be elevated 3 feet in the 100-year floodplain.
So the basic requirement is the finished floor is 1 feet. 1 foot. My understanding is that their company policy is 3 feet. They will also be required to meet our flood regulations and demonstrate no adverse impact to adjacent properties through this development.
And also TDEC and whatever
Correct.
other regulations that's out there.
All of this is taken into consideration, the high water level.
Yes. And I've lived off Edgemond Road for 24 years. And I'll just say, I'll get to some of the traffic in a second, but I have personally never seen water run across Edgemond Road. So I will say it. It's not very, if it does, it's not very common. So.
I think the only one that's trying to cross is up there.
Quiet, please. No more. I will ask them to make everyone leave the room.
So anyway, people, because we're talking about people living next to the railroad. I mean, that's the right of the people who buy houses. If you buy a house next to the railroad, then it doesn't bother them. The schools, we've all heard it. You've lived in Hamilton County. I hear you talking about it. Schools has been a big issue for many, many years. Property tax goes to fund the county school systems. 60%. And I will tell you, this is an issue for Hamilton County School Board. It's not an issue for the city of Collegedale. We have no influence on them except we pay our property tax. And that's how the county works. They are supposed to use that money to buy supplies, teachers' books, pay salaries. That is a Hamilton County School Board responsibility to our kids. And then people say we haven't addressed the big elephant in the room. Well, traffic. So I lived out there for 24 years. We could make Talent Road and we could make Edgemond Road a 5-lane road today. The problem is, and you know it, as soon as there's a wreck on the freeway, 75 from exit mile marker 9 all the way up to exit 22 in Bradley County, if you have a phone and you have GPS going, it will tell you to route yourself back through the back ways to get around that wreck. Well, that happens quite frequently. And what happens is everybody else who has a GPS on their phone is heading the back road trying to get around this instead of sitting in traffic. We will never correct that issue. What we could do, if we could get TDOT to fix this, is make Lee Highway a 5-lane road. They're not going to do it anytime soon, but I've talked to our city manager about it. Maybe we can get this in as a project. It's probably a 20-year project. I probably won't be here in 20 years, but that's okay. But that being said, 5 lanes Edgemond Road, 5 lanes Talent, 5-lane Tucker, it's not going to help when there's wrecks on freeway. And that's the standing elephant in the room tonight for me. There's nothing we can do about that. I'd like to do something about it, but I can't until TDOT fixes Lee Highway. I don't know if you agree, but that's exactly what it is. And also the railroad. So I'm not going to say this to offend anybody, but there's a ranking order of TDOT. Of the railroad. You have the railroad here, you have God here, and then you got everybody else underneath it. And if we tried to put a railroad crossing on Lee Highway, the railroad would shut us down quickly. They would not even entertain a request from us. And I will tell you, Lee Highway at Edgemond Road, the city volunteered to put up light poles, a red light with Mike Carter, who is no longer with us, to get this a safer intersection. We got funds to do an improvement on an emergency basis, but it took 4 years with the TDOT and the railroad to finally come to an agreement. So, it was a fail anyway when they put it in. So with what's going to happen is with putting in a bridge, a 3rd lane over the bridge, people going to Bradley County will not have to sit in line and back everybody up. They will have the ability to get out of line and go across the lane and go right to Bradley County, and everybody else can kind of flow into it. But it's not going to make everybody happy. It's not. We know that. And we're challenged with that. So I think that some of the things that we could do, we just can't do. But infrastructure has been addressed. They are putting a brand new sewer pump in for us. They're putting a roundabout. They're paying for the bridge. And we're talking about $1.8 million minimum. So they are doing things that they have to do to meet our needs as a city if they do this.
Okay. I'm not going to take long because they pretty much said everything that you've heard, but I would like to comment one thing. We take our job serious up here. And we have to look at a lot of things that we necessarily don't like to look at because we know that the answers you want to hear are not the ones you want to hear. I do that every day. Number one, I've already made a statement about the education, which Vice Mayor elaborated on is what I want to say. I taught in Hamilton County schools for over 20 years. Okay, 60% of your taxes goes to the county to go for education for our children. If you want more schools, better classrooms and so forth, you need to petition your school board. They're elected officials also, just like teachers go up and petition to get things. And over 20 years of teaching in Hamilton County, I could say 1/3 of my salary every year went to my classroom. I furnished personally, and I'm not the only teacher that did that because the monies are short. How they appropriate it is not our will, but the will of our elected commissioners on the Board of Education. So therefore, you need to address that with them. We don't control the public schools here. The county by law has to furnish education. You don't want your taxes to go up so high. If we did take over, you're looking at millions of dollars and being able to furnish retirement, get the teachers, the equipment, and so forth in, okay? So other than private schools, we don't provide for private schools either because we separate church and state. That's what we're supposed to do. So, that is a concern. I addressed all these, and just like I did not know that the mayor and the vice mayor had contacted certain people on this list. I knew they had talked with representatives. I did not know who they talked to, so I took it upon myself and I called people. that was given as a reference. I went down and drove in Atlanta. I observed 3 neighborhoods, going through, checking, looking at the way the structure was that Empire put up. I looked at one that they're currently working on that Kat, that you referred to, mentioned that, and that they're had given 2 more plans to. So I went and checked it out because I wanted to see with my eyes. Okay, and they do quality work. I was very well pleased, and I'm not easily pleased at things. Also concerning the railroad tracks and so forth, I live with a railroad track in my backyard for over 20 years. At my husband's request, I wasn't proud about it. I didn't really want to be by the railroad, but having grown up by the airport for so many years, I thought I could adjust, and I did. Okay, it's not something that I would really wanted, but you know, I loved it. Within a week, I didn't know anything. It didn't bother me. And we've learned to live with it and actually to accept it and use it. It became part of our community that we've accepted in that neighborhood that I live in. I would say that I know that we are elected officials. We know that every day. We know that we are. And for the money that we get paid a month, which I will tell you, it's only like $400 a month. We try to take care of your needs. We're not up here for power. We're not up here for fame. We're up here because we care and we love our community. And so if what happens here tonight, if you're so adamant against it or for it or whatever, if it makes a decision for your vote, that's your right. You have the right to pick who you want to have and serve you. But I would ask you, look at the board and what they've done over the years. We've taken every need, every consideration, and we don't take it lightly. We've researched all this. We've got the professionals on it for us, for Collegedale, for our people, not for people outside our community. They don't contribute financially to us, but we do try to be good neighbors. But when the bottom line is, who is Collegedale? It's the citizens of Collegedale. Not someone from California, not someone from Etowah. It's someone who pays taxes into this community to give the things to you that you want to help your family and your community. I've had to vote for things that I didn't particularly care about, but I did for the community. They impacted mine, but I had to vote for it for the wellness of the community. And so with that being said, I'm just going to move on. I think most of the questions have been asked. I think that Empire, they have made some concessions that the community requested. But the community was not even, you wouldn't even adhere to it. You wouldn't listen. We've been accused of not listening, but we have. We have to get a balance here, and we have to do what's right. And with all things considering and looking at everything that's coming about and what could happen, we take all that, and we don't take it lightly. Sorry, go ahead.
Is anyone ready to make a motion?
I'll move to approve.
For the record, is that with conditions?
Yes,
Just a moment, you need to adjourn out of the public hearing.
we did.
Oh,
You've
I'm
already-
sorry, I forgot to do that.
Oh, she did
You
that?
did.
I'm
It's
sorry.
6:59.
Okay.
Did I?
Yeah.
So
I've been listening so much, I forget what I've
you
done.
probably ought to read the caption of the one that you're.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ordinance number 1112. An ordinance to amend the official zoning map to rezone certain properties from AG to R1L, more particularly described as Hamilton County Tax Map 132, Parcel 053, and Hamilton County Tax Map 132, Parcel 054. Said properties being located within corporate limits of Collegedale, Tennessee.
We have a motion and a second?
And the motion is with conditions.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the ordinance as presented to you has got the conditions printed in it.
Yes, it does. Okay. Any further discussion?
Who was the second?
I'll second it with conditions.
You know, I've been on this board long enough, 20 years. And I remember a lot when Homewood was being built.
Mhm.
A lot of the community, I had people from Landon Drive approach me and was concerned about it. And I had people on Edgemond Road as well, commenting as well to me about some of the development going on. So I appreciate the feedback. Homewood has turned out not to be a big input of traffic. I did sit through some of the key points of morning traffic and afternoon traffic at Homewood, and it was not bad. I mean, I personally wouldn't want to live in Homewood because you got that sharp curve coming out of it, but the traffic moved pretty quickly out and onto Edgemond Road. And again, I feel that we'll never be able to change the railroad or TDOT to get Lee Highway fixed anytime soon. And I think that we still have to owe it to people who want to move to the city of Collegedale, because we all know housing is a shortage in the city of Collegedale.
And at the same time, we want to keep our youth here. If Collegedale's going to survive, we have to provide jobs and things for our youth so they'll want to come back and live in Collegedale and for it to prosper. If not, Collegedale will not exist.
I know probably people won't want to hear this, but it will definitely help the home values in that side of the
Yes, sir.
city.
I think too, as far as traffic is concerned, when Appleton Pike is completed and the bridge over the railroad, that'll help tremendously with the traffic in this part of this county.
Well, and then you have to look at people work times. I mean, because not everybody goes to work at the same time. I looked at the school board. The Hamilton County schools start at all different times. It's not just one set time. So if you look at their website, it shows the different times of the schools. You have people such as nurses, doctors, construction workers, or whoever. They go to work at different times. My wife is a nurse, my daughter's a nurse, and they have to be at work at 6 or 6:30. So they have to leave about 5 o'clock in the morning. So they wouldn't be in part of that total traffic, if you will, control. So
Anything else, anyone? We have a motion and a second for ordinance 1112. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yay.
Commissioner Hanson,
I came this evening, I have read a lot of what the concerned citizens have said about this project. This packet that was given us at the close of the last meeting was impressive. These people put a lot of hard work into it. Unfortunately, there are rules and regulations above our heads that we don't have control over. Empire seems to have crossed all their T's and dotted their I's. And no matter what I vote, logically, they have crossed their T's and dotted their I's, and it's going to happen no matter how I vote. But I am going to go vote yay because I feel that they are satisfying the rules and regulations above us that we have no control over.
Vice Mayor John,
yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Okay, our next action to be taken is a vote on ordinance 1113, which is the PUD overlay. Do you want her to read why don't you read the caption
She should
again,
read the
please?
Ordinance 1113, an ordinance to approve a planned unit development overlay for certain properties, more particularly described as Hamilton County Tax Map 132, Parcel 053, and Hamilton County Tax Map 132, Parcel 054, said properties being located within the corporate limits of Collegedale, Tennessee.
Okay, any comments or questions regarding ordinance 1113? Do I hear a motion in a second?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yay.
Commissioner Hanson,
Again, my sympathies are with all the people against this. Vote yea.
Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. We move on to our new business. Our first one is a request for VC3 contracts. I guess we'll wait until everybody's out that don't care to hear the rest of our meeting.
That's it.
Okay, who's going to speak about the VC3 contract?
I will. This is the IT contract we discussed at the last workshop. After doing some more research, we believe that subbing out this work similar to how we do the library is the best route forward for the city. And so we're asking for approval of one-time fees of $71,902.68, and then monthly fees of $22,455.73.
Okay, any questions after our discussion at workshop?
I move to approve.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yay.
Commissioner Hanson, Vice Mayor
Yay.
Johnson, Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Our next item is appoint a commissioner to the Airport Advisory Board. I've been talking to Ryan about this and our director of the airport, and because it's so close to the election, I'm going to temporarily sit in on their meetings until after the election, and then we will choose one of the commissioners to join them. I don't know that Commissioner Hanson wants to add on another responsibility for 3 weeks, but so I thought I would just sit in on it until after the election. So if that's okay, I need approval. You do?
I think it's a good move.
Yeah.
Okay. Can we have a vote just to make it legal?
I would prefer that.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yes.
Commissioner Hanson, Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Now we're open for the finance report.
Good evening. You should have the September finance report in front of you. We're 25% through the year and have received 13% of projected revenues and have spent 27% of budgeted expenditures. And that's very normal for this time of year. A few items to note on the revenue side, both the local option and state share sales tax are coming in above budget, so that is great. Also, the economic development fee is over budget, and that is due to a McKee Foods project. On the expenditure side, everything's looking good, except for our election costs are over. The reason for that is the Election Commission began charging for labor costs, and we were not aware of that when we budgeted, so we weren't able to budget for that. This was unexpected. As far as the bank account balances, there weren't any transfers last month, so everything looks about the same as the month prior. Do you have any questions?
So the election commission charges, is
They
that for
always have, yeah.
staffing here or outside of Collegedale? Because we have people voting outside of Collegedale. We have people
Here, but
voting on Ottawa, Georgetown, Ottawa, Ringo, Appson, and now here.
It is a slightly different interpretation that is being debated about our share of the labor for our elections during county elections. And so that y'all are aware, this is an issue that's come up with all of the small cities. All of us are going back and forth with the election commission to try to get resolution. But at this point, we are being billed more than historically.
And this is because we have commissioned
Correct.
in this election to be
Correct.
elected. Otherwise, we don't have this charge.
Correct, historically. And that's part of the conversations we're having now going forward.
The charge that we've received so far is only for the judge, the election that we had in August. So we will have more cost actually in November.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Any other comments or questions?
I move to approve the financials.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Baker,
Yay.
Commissioner Hanson, Vice Mayor Johnson.
Yay.
Mayor Lamb.
Yay. Anything else, reports from our city administration?
Nothing else to add tonight.
Okay. Commissioner Hanson? Commissioner Baker?
Oh, no, I am looking forward to seeing this proceed on, and I'll be honest with you, I'm going to be watching it because I have a tendency to go tour things, if that's okay. To see that, because I'd like to make sure we keep the same standard that you're building elsewhere. Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
Welcome back from vacation.
Thank you.
That's all I have.
I just want to remind everybody, the police is having their National Night Out Saturday night, the 22nd. So come out and enjoy what they have to share with us. And I don't have anything else, so do we have a motion?
Move to adjourn.
We're adjourned.